Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Hardcore Casuals. This is Axel Grave, your host, and on this season we're going through Iron Fist Season 2. This is Episode 5, Heart of the Dragon, and in this episode I think we're really getting a good thing. I'll talk about it more critically at the end, but right now I'm just going to go through the episode breakdown and summary. I have to do it pretty detailed, kind of piece by piece, so bear with me. In this episode, we start off on Davos, we assume basically right after the ceremony, because it's still night, and he is using the fist to bust through a wall with the mask on. Man, it looks amazing, it's cool, and you know, he's excited, he's off, and he flashes back to like an earlier memory of his like childhood, teenhood with Danny, and in this memory, both him and Davos are talking about, you know, what if becoming the Iron Fist and what they would do and who they would fight. And we see Davos' mother, who is very mean and kind of like strict. She swats his hand with a switch because he was going to have compassion, and she thinks that's a weakness and all kinds of stuff. So she's kind of a little crazy, and we see that. We go past the intro and we go in on Joyce basically going to pay off Mary. Well, like before that, we see Danny drop. After this, we see Mary with Danny. She is dropping him off, and he's all messed up. He's bleeding. He's like white and pale, and she like lifts up his shirt to take a video picture and like stabs him with what I assume is adrenaline to like make him feel all the pain, so he's not numb from the drugs she had used on him the day before, or whatever, however long. And then she, you know, takes the video and pieces out, and we see Danny kind of wander around a bit. Then we switch to her with Joyce. She's showing Joyce the video, and she's like, "Oh, this is what you wanted," you know. And she's like, "Yeah, I mean, I'll watch it later." She's like, "No, you gotta watch it now." And then, you know, we'll set a payment so I can delete this and get out of here. And then we never met. She's like, "Okay, whatever, we'll do that." And she's like, "Oh, I hope you're happy and it's what you want." She's like, "Cool." We go to Colleen and Misty, who are like, you know, searching for Danny. Like, where's Danny at? Because they got the call with Mary, and like Colleen's worried he's hurt, and Misty's like, "Well, we don't know, so maybe we can figure out who Mary is and go from there." And it's like, all right, well, do we have DNA? No, but we can get maybe fingerprints. She's like, well, it takes like 24 hours at the police station, even if I pull favors. And she's like, well, maybe we can do something else. At which point we switch, I think, back to Davos. And maybe this was actually a little earlier, probably. But Davos is like, it was earlier too, because it was the night, and he is like busted into some place, and he finds triads harassing this guy, so he just kills them all, like the Golden Tiger triads. Just kills 3 guys. The guy's like, whoa, what's going on? You know, I didn't see nothing. He's like, where are the? Don't worry, you don't gotta fear me. Where can I find more of these guys? Like at this club, which becomes important later because we get to the club, and Davos is going through and just kicking people, and the bouncers and nothing. He finally gets to the boss, kills a bunch of his bodyguards. He's like, bring it. They fight one-on-one, man. He lights up the fist, pounds him into the wall, kills him. Second guy's like, whoa, I know all of the criminal underground. I'll help you get them all. I'll help you find all the criminal triad. He's like, I want all the criminals. He's like, all right, I'll help you all. If they commit crime, I know them. We'll find them. Just don't kill me. You know, he's just saying what he wants to hear. And it was definitely a powerful moment for Davos, so we'll see how that goes. After this scene, we see another flashback of Davos right after he lost the fight. Like literally right after, while Danny's preparing to fight the dragon, after he lost the fight to Danny. And his mother is just like beating him up, saying like, I wish I had been Baron. I didn't raise a champion. I raised a loser. You know, don't make excuses. It was your own defeat, and just like tearing him a new one. After this, you know, we see a little bit more of Colleen and Misty. After this, we see a little bit more of Colleen and Misty searching around, as well as some scenes of Danny with the kids gang who finds him. They find him out on the thing. They're like, oh, the triads probably want this guy, so let's take him. They beat him up, and he's in there, and he figures out he doesn't have the Iron Fist anymore because he tries to break out of his chain with it, and he's like, oh no, I don't got it, my fist is probably broken. At which point we go back to Davos, who is visiting Joyce and telling her, you know, she's like, well, I think this is done. He's like, no, this isn't done. She's like, well, I think it is. He's like, you don't just get to forget the things you did. It's like, I get to do exactly that. He's like, and basically he's just kind of he was giving her a warning, you know, a little bit, like, you know, I'm the new Iron Fist. I'm going out and doing what Danny couldn't, and I'm getting rid of crime and being a badass. She's like, whoa, you know, I didn't sign up for this. I'll let you know. And he's like, you can be a part of that. She's like, just give me time, I'll let you know. It's crazy. Finally, Colleen and Misty, I can't remember, I think they had a call from BB or somebody, but they find Danny with the kid gang, and they save him after he's about to get his finger cut off. They call Ward, who calls his, just like, we can't take him to a doctor, so they get Ward, and he's like, well, let me try this, because Claire's out of town, and they're like, oh, well, his sponsor is apparently an anesthesiologist, so she comes in and stabilizes him. She's like, she gets out, she's like, don't ever ask me to get back here again online, you piece of shit. He's like, my bad, I'm still working on it. She's like, at least you care about someone, to Ward, and I'm just like, wow, this sponsoree is way more integral than I thought, I guess, or at least they tied her in a little more, but I'm just like, I don't know what's the point of that with Ward a little, although I do like the emotional development it gets between Ward and Danny where they're like talking later, because after that they're just like, alright, well, how did this all happen? And you know, Joyce goes to pay Walker, I keep forgetting, I gotta call her Walker when she's that personality, and when doing so, she's like, well, I'm worried about Davos and I need protection. She's like, well, my only way of protection is to eliminate the threat. And she's like, well, that's, you know, that's got a lot of quotations. She's like, no, it doesn't. It was great. It was a great line. But Mary then stays around, I guess, for whatever reason, you know, to figure that out. And meanwhile, they're taking care of Danny, and they're like, all right, well, we got to figure out who Mary is, and or it's like, well, I figured out that she's like ex Special Forces or Black Ops, I can't remember, Special Forces, I think, and redacted files, but she's in the Rand because she got discharged from the military and went private or whatever. I can't remember, went freelance, and he's like, that's why she was in the Rand database, and that's probably where, you know, and then maybe that's how Davos, and then Misty's like, well, if she's in the Rand database, then maybe it was Joy who knew her. Sorry, it's Joy too, not Joyce. I keep messing that up. I don't know why I keep messing that up. Apologize. I'm sure the other videos all have that in there, and I'm gonna have to put it in the videos. It's Joy, not Joyce. Oh man. But yeah, so then they're like, all right, Ward, you stay here, take care of Danny. We're gonna go see what Joy's doing. And Misty and Colleen show up there. It's crazy because at the same time Walker's there. She tries to hide, but when Joy opens the door for Misty, she notices immediately someone's there. She goes in, and there's a big fight where they eventually somehow get Walker and Joy and take them back. Meanwhile, Ward and Danny had just been talking about, you know, Danny and how he felt about the fist, how he was lighting it up way too much, just kept lighting it up every night and chasing he's like the spirit of Shala, the dragon, and it was very obviously a reference to drug addiction, and that's why. And Ward is like, hey man, I hear you. I've seen that dragon's face and chased its tail, and I like that message they have in there, and it's a little in your face, but not too in your face. You know what I mean? Especially because it's like an analogy for also power and corruption, all kinds of stuff. And which point they've been talking about that. And then finally, Colleen and Misty bring those two back, and Joy goes, tells Danny to his face, yeah, I did all this, I was responsible, and I did this to hurt you, and it worked. And he's just like, what? And like, but I was the Immortal Iron. So this was not that episode, and so we're halfway through, and so I want to do, we're halfway through, so I want to do a little more critical breakdown, as a series. And speaking from story-wise, if you're going by a basic storyline, this has a really good arc because it's got a good ramp-up. You know kind of what's happening, it's laid it up, but it does have this very nice tipping point right now where Davos is this powerful villain, and Danny's at his weakest, You know, it's the best rise and fall of Parabellum, whatever you want to call it. And I just think it's amazing how they're getting it through. They're not having these villain switches. You know, you do have these two villains, but they're not really like changing, and I'm hoping they don't by the end of the season, because if not, what it should be is this episode, episode 5, and then also episode 6 should be very strong Davos episodes. And honestly, that's a great thing, is he is very strong. I think Davos is a great, very powerful character, just like Misty and Colleen. My problem is right now Danny isn't really shining the way he should be, and it's because he's losing the fist and doing this and whatever, but he has to be brought low and have flaws, because that's how character development is. Your character can't just be perfect and amazing, or it's boring. It just is. It's not relatable, and it really doesn't. Yeah, you don't learn much from someone who's perfect a lot of the time. You gotta learn much from people who learn lessons. You know, the Aesop's fables. But I think Danny, and more specifically the actor, even less so, even the writing, needs a more powerful performance, because like Davos is so strong right now with that. Like, he's a good villain, first of all, and hopefully a recurring one, because obviously he's Danny's brother. We're hoping he doesn't die. Like, I want him to come back. Maybe he gets like paralyzed or something, or like put to coma, just to put him out for a while to get another new enemy. But I'd love to see more Davos, and I'll love him the rest of the season, hopefully, and he'll get, like I said, stronger in that next episode, and then gradually, like at 8, 9, we get the conclusion and the down, because, like I said, if it were a finish to end story, left to right, or I didn't say it, I said it earlier when I messed up the recording, but yeah, what I mean is, if it were a beginning to end, it would start, you know, here, and then, you know what I mean, the conclusion, climax, and then the very small ending. But because it's another season, it has to have a somewhat sooner climax, and then more wind down to set up for the next season, as well as the setup for other seasons of the Marvel Universe. Also, there was a very specific mention. The Erskine experiments were mentioned, I believe, either in this one or the last episode. So they're doing some good mention in Marvel Universe tie-in stuff. They obviously aren't following 100% of anything at all from Danny or the Iron Fist stuff, which, you know, I think it's kind of fine. I don't think it's a very well-known title. Honestly, I need to know more about it myself. I know that the basics are obviously the same, even the stuff with his uncle. Or I guess that wasn't really his uncle. His uncle was taken the place of by the Meachums or whatever, kind of. The Meachums also were very somewhat like half accurate. But yeah, well, like I'm very much finding this interesting. I don't think Davos is canon either, so he's got a very good original villain. But yeah, I want to see a stronger Danny. Danny needs to shine by the end of this. He's just not. You can't be outshone by your villain, man. That's not what I want. You know what I mean? I need Danny to beat the Iron Fist and fight Davos. And now, granted, now Davos is set up as a nice, strong villain, and like he's actually more of like a somewhat anti-hero villain, because he's still like, except for Danny, he hasn't really fucked him up, and his reason for messing up Danny is to get the Iron Fist and do what Danny won't, and like get his birthright now from his mother. That's what they also did in this, was give Davos that pass, which was good, but I think they touched on it too much. Too many flashbacks. They needed like one, maybe a second one, but I think they had 3. And it was just too many flashbacks. And maybe it was only 2, but if it was, they were too long, because there was just too many flashbacks in this for the Davos. Having said that, I can't wait to see what episode 6 brings out, and you know, even though it's the second run, this has been my review of episode 5, Heart of the Dragon, season 2 of Marvel's Iron Fist, and Hardcore Casuals will be back in the next set soon. Thanks, and have a good one.